Welcome back. Today we're looking at a piece called Atlantis, Reusable Path to the Stars. And in short, it explores the legacy of Space Shuttle Atlantis, really focusing on its role as this reusable heavy-lift vehicle that was so critical for the ISS over its 33 missions.
It's a really strong piece. Good bones.
It is. A clear reverence for the subject. But I think we see three, big opportunities to really elevate it.
I agree.
So let's just dive in. The first area for me is that the descriptive language needs to transition from these general emotional prompts to more specific, tactile sensory details.
Right. Things that are unique to the shuttle itself.
Exactly. Right now, it leans a bit on generalities. It tells you to imagine the roar of its launch, the shimmering heat of reentry.
We've all heard those phrases before.
Yes, and they're classic, but they're generic. They could apply to almost any launch. It sort of relies on the reader already knowing what a launch feels like, instead of giving them a fresh take.
Yeah, and with material this rich, you can't just use placeholder language for those big emotional beats. The author is clearly aiming for a very evocative, nostalgic tone.
They are.
And to get there, you have to anchor that emotion. Give the reader specific physical sensations or sights that they couldn't just guess. That specificity is what will really enhance the tone.
So, give me an example. What would you do with the roar?
Well, instead of just the word roar, describe its quality. Was it a low-frequency rumble, something you felt in your chest more than you heard with your ears?
Oh, I like that. The vibration.
Exactly. The vibration running through the actual airframe. What did that specific sound do to the people inside it?
That's a powerful point about the feeling of the sound. But then, does the author risk focusing too much on just that one violent moment? What about the rest of the mission?
I think you use the contrast. That's the key. Think about the launch sequence. You have this all-consuming noise, and then it's just gone.
The moment the SRBs separate?
The very instant. That sudden, profound silence. That shift from being battered by sound to, this deep, orbital quiet. That's a sensory marker completely unique to the shuttle program.
And you could apply that same thinking to reentry.
Absolutely. Instead of shimmering heat, let's get more visceral. What about the G-forces? That feeling of being physically pressed deep, deep into your seat.
It gives the reader a sense of the actual struggle, the physics of it.
It does. And you can even link that to the aftermath, once it's landed.
The thermal protection system.
Precisely. You could describe the specific smell of the heat tiles after landing, that sort of burnt industrial scent that's unique to that material. It's the smell of a machine that just fought the atmosphere and won.
I see. So it's about turning a general image into a specific felt memory.
Exactly. And that's what will captivate an audience that already knows the basics.
That's a great transition, actually. Moving from a general trip to space to the specific, complex machine that was Atlantis, which brings us right to our second point.
The reusability.
To fully support that title, Reusable Path to the Stars, the material has to articulate the revolutionary significance and the sheer engineering challenge of reusability more clearly.
Yeah.
Right now, that core concept, the promise it mentions, it's just stated as a fact. It lists what Atlantis did, 33 missions, 28-ton payload.
The stats.
Right, the stats. But it doesn't really connect them back to why being reusable was so difficult and so critical for that era. It misses the drama of it.
I think that's the central weakness here. It's celebrating the result, the flight count, without really appreciating how monumental the task was. We need to give more weight to the engineering feat.
What do you mean?
I mean, designing a massive winged vehicle that could survive 33 high-speed reentries and then be, turned around for another launch. That vulnerability, the stakes of getting it right every single time, that's what strengthens the whole idea of the promise.
So it's not just refueling a plane.
Not at all. It's designing for constant deconstruction and inspection.
But doesn't that risk, bogging the narrative down in technical details, in maintenance reports?
Not if you frame it as the cost of success. The unsung story of reusability is the inspection process. For an example, you could talk about the mind-boggling complexity of inspecting and replacing thousands of those individual thermal protection system tiles
The TPS tiles.
after every single mission.
And just to make it clear for the reader, that massive workload is exactly what allowed it to survive that, 1,650 degrees Celsius infernal 33 times.
Exactly. And the fragility, the fact that one tile failure could doom the entire mission, that's where the tension is. By focusing on the refurbishment, you show that reusability wasn't just a switch you flip. It was this immense, meticulous human effort. It makes the 33 missions feel like a real triumph.
Okay, I see.
And from there, you have to connect the payload to the economics. The 28-ton capacity. This is the so what of the title.
Right.
If Atlantis had been an expendable rocket, launching 28 tons once would be, well, expensive, but doable.
But the International Space Station wasn't a one-off build. It was constructed piece by piece over years.
Correct. To launch that kind of mass plus a 7-person crew for construction, 33 times with expendable rockets, it would have been logistically impossible, financially prohibitive.
So Atlantis made the ISS feasible.
It's the only way it could have been built. That capability wasn't just a cool feature. It was essential. That's how it bridged Earth with orbit time after time.
Okay. Focusing on that engineering challenge really makes the 33 missions feel like earned victories, not just statistics. And that idea of persistent construction, that brings us to our third point.
Sharpening the narrative focus.
Yes, specifically, sharpening the focus through the ISS contribution. I mean, Atlantis's role in building the station was arguably its most important contribution.
No question.
But the piece right now just sort of lists it. It says it helped build the orbiting haven of the ISS, right alongside launching, general satellites.
And is there a risk there? By putting those things side by side, are we maybe diminishing the sheer achievement of delivering these massive pieces of a permanent human habitat into orbit?
That's the question.
Building the station required a level of construction and logistics that was just completely unique to the shuttle.
So what's the suggestion?
I think you use the ISS role as the narrative anchor for the whole piece. Frame Atlantis not just as a transport vehicle, but as the essential heavy construction crane of the orbital age.
The construction crane, I like that.
Focus on what that 28-ton capacity enabled for the station, specifically. Give the reader a real sense of the size and weight of these objects.
I can see the power in that. But if we focus entirely on the ISS, do we lose the sense of the shuttle's versatility? Hubble repairs, satellite launches. Doesn't that show a broader capability?
It does, but I think by focusing on the ISS, you inherently showcase everything. Building the station was the ultimate stress test of all its capabilities.
How so?
Well, it required the huge cargo bay, the heavy lift, the crew for complex EVAs. If it could build the backbone of the station, it could do anything else. You use the most critical mission as your organizing principle.
Okay. So give me a concrete example of that.
Instead of a general statement, you focus the reader on something tangible. Reference the sheer size and weight of a specific component Atlantis delivered. A massive truss segment, maybe.
The station's backbone.
Exactly. Or an entire pressurized module. These are things that simply could not have been launched or assembled by any other vehicle at the time.
And the piece already uses the word haven.
It does. You can harness that. Use haven as a narrative thread and show how Atlantis physically constructed that safe environment, piece by massive piece. That story inherently highlights all of the shuttle's unique engineering. It makes the whole story more focused and, I think, much more dramatic.
It really elevates Atlantis from just a successful spacecraft to the indispensable protagonist in the story of permanent human presence in space. That construction crane analogy is very sharp.
Yeah.
So to summarize our critique of Atlantis, reusable path to the stars, the material has a fantastic basis, but we see 3 main paths to making this a truly unforgettable piece.
First, it's about integrating those specific, unique sensory details. Move away from the generic space travel imagery and toward the specific, felt experience of actually flying inside that orbiter.
So the sound dynamics, the feeling of the G-forces, the specific smell of the returning vehicle.
Exactly. Second, deepen the context of reusability. It wasn't just a feature, it was a revolutionary high-stakes engineering achievement.
So focus on the maintenance, the complexity of the TPS, and the economic logistics that made those 33 missions so consequential.
And finally, sharpen that narrative focus. Center the entire story around Atlantis's indispensable role in the physical construction of the International Space Station. Use that heavy-lift, engineering-focused mission as the organizing principle.
Right.
And I think integrating those changes, adding the sensory depth, giving real weight to the engineering story, and focusing on the greatest construction project in history will really make this piece robust, logical, and it'll fully leverage the fascinating content that's already there.
It moves it from a successful tribute to something more definitive, an explanation of why Atlantis was so essential.
I think so. The potential is huge.
It really is. We are genuinely excited to see how you implement these suggestions. Please send the revised work back to us for a follow-up critique when you're ready.
We'd love to see it.
Thank you for sharing your material with us.